because it's evening wherever you are in Europe, whatever time it is. It's really great to have you all on board for this third DigiFit webinar. If you have any question, you can use the chat, you can raise your hand or open your mic. But I will now maybe Fiona give you the floor so that you can briefly introduce our keynote from tonight.
Thanks a million, Carol. Great to see you again. It's my great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Kieran Collins, to this webinar. We are really fortunate to have him as our keynote. So I have some interesting things to say about Kieran. He's an extremely accomplished academic based in Technological University in Dublin. He serves there as the head of discipline for dietetics, nutrition and sports sciences. As well as that, just because he has extra time on his hands, he's the assistant head of the School of Biological Health and Sports Sciences and is also the director of the Gaelic Sports Research Centre at TU Dublin in their Tala campus. He has been doing something very exciting recently, and this is why we thought he could be a fantastic keynote for this session. He's the programme lead of this new postgraduate diploma in sports analytics, technology and innovation. And this is the first programme of its kind that blends sports tech and data analytics. It was created to support innovation in the sports tech industry. And it's being led really by Technology Ireland's Digital Skillnet in partnership with TU Dublin and also Sports Tech Ireland. So basically that programme that Kieran is leading on in Dublin and that in the university is a programme that aims to equip professionals with a deep understanding of the sports tech landscape and how to leverage it to strategic advantage. It's targeting executives, business leaders, data professionals and sports management experts. If you're interested in the programme, please look at it at the Technological University Dublin website. In terms of his research, another highly accomplished area in Dr. Collins' life, he specialises in the physiology of intermittent exercise, focusing particularly on Gaelic sports. His research includes developing modelling protocols for Gaelic games, evaluating the physical demands of match play, and studying the training and testing of players. He also investigates the impact of training organisation on physiological adaptations and injury occurrences, as well as the nutritional requirements of Gaelic sports players. So that's quite an amount to say about my wonderful colleague, Kieran. And he is from West Cork. And as we say in Cork, Irish by birth and from West Cork by the grace of God. And with that fantastic sentence, I will pass you across to Kieran for his keynote. Welcome, Kieran.
Thanks very much, Fiona. I think we should end it at that because it's all downhill from there. I was delighted to be asked to do this talk on AI in sport, looking at the solutions and gimmickry attached to the domain. And whether we like it or not, AI is going to be part of our present and very much part of our future. And Fiona gave a nice introduction to me in terms of my background. I class myself almost as an ergonomist, where we put the human at the center of what we do. And because of that, we have built out a whole range of data, programs, technological interactions, and innovation solutions around that human at the center of this process. And because of that, it has naturally led itself into sports tech and sports technology, but the application of AI to the domain. And it's, whilst it's quite nascent in terms of the work being undertaken, it is accelerating at quite a pace, and it is an incredibly exciting space to be involved in. So in terms of what I'm going to talk about this evening, and I'm very conscious of the timings of it. So there's going to be components that I might jump through a little too quickly. And if there is something that you want to look at further, by all means, reach out and ask the questions at the end, because there's a lot to cover in this space, and half an hour probably doesn't do it justice. We could spend the whole day talking about it, but that would be that wouldn't be a great use of time, because with these technologies, you have to experience them first and foremost, and that's an important part of the technology and the potential opportunity within the technology. So I want to talk about the market first in terms of sports data and sports technology and artificial intelligence. This space is growing at an incredible rate. Sports tech is growing by 18%, 18.6% compounded annual growth rate per annum, with it expected to be worth 53 billion by 2030. The COVID has had an incredible impact in the domain, with the digital transformation that has taken place across sporting organisations. That transfer of their entire systems online over COVID has prepared them for what is coming down the track to a degree. But organizations are incredibly challenged by their demographics in terms of sport is a unique component of society, in that we have kids learning to move right up to the elderly, and we have everything in between involved in sport and taking part in sport. So in terms of the growth areas, we have the segmentation typically is focused on the team sport area, with American sports dominated, but soccer and rugby is not far behind in terms of its engagement with data and technology, in terms of how it's used and how it's utilized. Key growth drivers within the areas has been how to engage with fans and how to utilize potential new markets in terms of esports, in terms of this domain of sports tech, this domain of data and AI. So in terms of the key factors influencing, for the last 20 years, we've been monitoring players, and we have been tracking those players in real time for the last 10 years. And that has led to this incredible growth in data analytics. And as a consequence, the application of AI is a natural extension to that data analytics. And it is already used within sports betting and AI sports predictions in terms of match outcomes or outcomes of activities using chess-based models like ELO. And also there's a growing demand for virtual assistants and chatbots to interact with fans. So again, it's looking at what is taking place in the broader societal domain of technology and translating it across into sports with those virtual assistants and chatbots. How real some of those are is really questionable, because of some of the frameworks that they are built on. They are built on tools that are maybe not specific to the sports market, and that is a challenge with the domain, and which I will get into later on. So just to give you a bit of context of the growth in this area, Facebook has spent 10.5 billion purchasing 350,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs because it wants to train its own AI models. So Facebook has access to a whole range of your data. And that is the real crux of artificial intelligence, is the quality of the data that it has been trained on. And fortunately, within the EU, there is frameworks that prevent the wholesale access of personal information and personal data, but that is not consistent across the globe. This is a video that was created by AI, and there is an incredible power and potential within AI to create campaigns and create activities that really engage audiences. And sport is no different to the road safety campaigns or to the creation of campaigns around wellness, around other programs. Sport is absolutely no different from that. Whilst we haven't seen the proliferation of the use of AI for the creation of campaigns around sporting organizations and sporting teams, I expect that this is one of the activities that will be around the corner. But these are individuals, they are artists in their own right that are creating art through the use of AI. Whilst that video and that content is quite emotive, it is one person at home creating. And the opportunity for AI in terms of the growth of content, the growth of media, is something that is something that we have to embrace, but also something we have to be very cognizant about in terms of the potential impact on how we consume information and how we consume technology. So in terms of the segments that I want to focus on here, before I get into some of the AI tools in particular for the individuals. So this is where the AI in sport has its greatest level of proliferation. So it's across areas like talent identification, acquisition, game analytics, training and coaching, predictive modeling, strategy improvements, injury prevention, fan engagement, and immersive experiences. And these are where the data has been residing over the last 10 or 15 years. And companies are either starting up in this environment or they are utilizing their existing data sets to move into this space using tools that are readily available to them. So if we look at Talent ID, there's a number of companies that have grown up in the last 4 or 5 years and have capitalized on the use of artificial intelligence. PlaySight in particular is one that you're going to hear a lot more about, but you have existing solutions like Sports Radar and Stats Perform, who have large data sets, who have good quality data that are also moving into this space with their predictive analytics and with their talent identification tools. The game analytics is one of the most dominant spaces because it crosses over a number of areas, and we have existing technologies with the likes of Second Spectrum, Hawkeye, and Huddle playing a considerable role in the area. And we have new companies like Trace, Swing, and Bio also coming into the space in the last 3 or 4 years. But what we're seeing is the likes of Hawkeye and other systems like Kitman Labs combining to develop predictive analytic tools to try and identify injury in real time. These tools will potentially have an incredible bearing on sport and how it's used, but the fundamental technology behind it is probably, or the fundamental science behind it is probably between 5 to 8 years away. But the partnerships are already being created with this movement into this artificial intelligence world of real-time analytics. The training and coaching, again, Huddle and Dartfish are ones that could easily have sat in the previous areas, where we're using video technology and feedback loops and to inform coaching practice and coaching behaviors. And again, when we look at some of the individual tools in a second, the use of the ability to write code and to be able to track information is completely enhanced by the use of artificial intelligence and the tools available. So this is an area where there seems to be a lot of investment taking place in the predictive modeling of in sports, particularly Gemini Sports and Sci Sports. Gemini Sports is a new entrant to the market, but it is one that is specifically focused on predictive modeling. Oracle have developed really good solutions around the female athlete, again, focused on predictive modeling and predictive analytics. So the strategy improvement, again, relies on big data and Second Spectrum, which are the tools that are within the stadia, capturing all the movement of players and athletes, and Stats Perform. These are informing that digital transformation process of that strategy improvement within the sporting bodies, elite sporting organizations. And in our injury prevention profiling, the Kitman Labs, Zone 7 and Oracle, again, what we're seeing is technologies crossing over into different segments depending on their focus depending on their focus of their technologies, having a role to play in multiple areas. This is a really interesting one, and if we look at the Kraft group in the United States, they have a subdivision called Cargo Analytics, and Cargo Analytics really pioneers some of the work around fan engagement, and we're starting to see companies come to the fore around that fan engagement component, where they're trying to build these immersive experiences and try to develop the social media content to be able to engage with the fan, that it's not just the fan in the stadiums anymore, it is the fan that is sitting at home, and how do we effectively engage with them consistently. And then we have the immersive experiences, looking at how to bring the activities into a more dynamic environment. So for example, Stats Perform, they're utilizing this spatial computing approach of bringing data and technology into the living room of the consumer. And these are the names we're going to hear a lot about in terms of the future and the future growth. But when we look at the organization, and you as a sporting organization, what is it that you can leverage? And in terms of what's taking place is we have this growth in data and the growth in data centers, because it is the tools in our hands that are going to be one of the major drivers. Whilst those segments that I spoke about previously, they're going to capture a lot of the media inches, and they're going to be potentially household names into this AI of the future. It is the back end of the organizations we're going to see the biggest change. The mundane tasks, the chatbots, the virtual assistants, they're going to be the ones that are going to have the biggest impact. So this is an extract from
Redefine business processes with Copilot Studio. Create copilots that act as agents, working independently for you. Simply describe what you want your copilot to do. Easily configure your copilot with the details it needs, like instructions, triggers, knowledge, and actions. Quickly test your copilot before you deploy, and seamlessly publish across multiple channels. Watch it use memory for context, reason over user input, and manage long-running tasks. Copilot can learn from feedback to improve. And you're always in control. Put Copilot to work for you. So
Microsoft have ownership of or have ownership of the ChatGPT tools, and they've developed a solution called Copilot, which puts assistance in the palm of your hands to create automations and to create tools that allow you to take ownership of your schedule, take ownership of your processes. We used to have tools like Zapier and other tools that would help automated processes around collecting data from websites, around collecting information, around or creating information in terms of create automations around constructing emails. This Copilot takes that into the palm of your hands if you're an organization, and it allows the creation of content and information. So the next, and I'm just going to turn off the sound for this one. So in terms of the next stage of these are the devices and the technologies that we work on. That they're going to require high processing power. So if you don't have the device and the technology to bring this to life, it's going to increase your requirement to purchase, and that has a knock-on effect in terms of the sustainability and the impact. And and that also feeds into this growth of that also feeds into this growth of data centers. So that leads us down to the individual, and I'm after rushing through that quite quickly, but it's in terms of the companies and the frameworks around companies. There's an awful lot of automations that will take place, and what we are going to see will be on the back end of the organization in terms of creating efficiencies. There are challenges within that in terms of the learning journey, and to embrace that learning journey, there is a whole range of tools available. So in terms of the online resources, these are the three entities that are driving that are some of the driving forces within this AI space. So Microsoft have 7 free AI courses that you can take to better understand AI and to better understand how we can leverage AI in the domain, in your own domain. Because when we talk about AI in sport, it won't be the companies that I spoke about previously. They're going to dominate the headlines, but it is our day-to-day tasks where the real value will be created, whether that is creating content, editing images, editing video. That's where the real power will take hold of how we utilize that technology. So Microsoft, NVIDIA, and AWS have really good courses that will help you understand and learn the tools, learn the use of these large language models and the AI tools that are available to you, that are typically free of charge, for a certain amount of time. So if I'm looking at the tools that we can use, in terms of key tools, Copilot is, for me, it's a really good one, and it is one that I use regularly. It is, you can use ChatGPT or any other derivatives. There's a whole range of companies that are forming that in some instances have a ChatGPT wraparound. Others have developed their own models and their own tools to be able to engage with the technology. The other really good tools are Writesonic and Replit. So in terms of Copilot, Copilot is something that I use on a very regular basis. I get asked to write a CV, or not asked to write a CV, but asked to write a reference, and I will use, if I want to have derivatives of it, I will have a standard template, and I may use Copilot to help flesh out that request. Other tools that I find quite good are Replit and Luma in terms of generating video. So I'm going to take you through Copilot. So in terms of Copilot, if we're writing and creating information, what's really important for these tools is that you provide contextual details, so that if you have reference material, if you have desired outcomes, what are the parameters that you require, and be as specific as possible. So if I'm just going to share a video of you with you in terms of a Copilot prompt that I undertook earlier today. So this is my Copilot interface. So I'm just going to ask it to write a report for me on sports tech. And what I'm asking it to do is to be very specific in terms of the length of the information, be very specific in how I want it framed. So for in this instance, I wanted 500 words max, and I wanted to have a touch of humor in it, in that report. And it takes note of that information, and the more information you feed it, the better the response will be. One of the reasons that I like Copilot is that it allows the referencing of the information that it pulled from. And one of the challenges within the earlier rounds of ChatGPT was the spurious references that it was creating, and it's something that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis in the academic environment, because of the students using it and students not appreciating the value or how to use it effectively. This is something that I also use on a very regular basis. So, what I want to try and do for my students is empower them to own the journey of artificial intelligence. So some of the assignments that we are constructing are around them writing code. And for example, I want them to write code around the creation of a BMI calculator. Tools like Replit will allow you to do that. And it will not only allow you to write the code, or write the code for you using the AI, it will also take you through the steps of why it created the code in that way, and creating this feedback loop in terms of learning, and this feedback loop in terms of trying to understand coding. So previously, we would have looked at no-code solutions as gateways to understanding data, understanding technology. But now with AI, it allows us to navigate in behind and allow somebody to play with code without needing all the requisite skills. And it's part of a journey in terms of developing the skill set. Luma is a very good tool for creating, and this is text to video, creating a video based on text content. So this is a video that Luma has created around an environment in space. The problem with any of these tools, if you go in and you try and create, let's say I wanted to create a drone flying over Ireland, for example, or a drone flying over France, it will base it on the images that is available to it. So if you throw in something that it doesn't have within its database, that creates problems for the artificial intelligence system. And you're limited, in terms of the free versions, you're limited to 4 or 5 utilizations within a given time period. But with this artificial intelligence technology comes a whole range of limitations. And I alluded to it earlier in terms of the data center requirements of the technology. So in terms of the computing power and the requirements for the technology, the more devices that we have, the more technology, the more embedded we are with the technology, there is a greater requirement in terms of electricity, a greater requirement for data centers, and that has a knock-on societal impact, which we have to be cognizant on. And we already have Microsoft talking about installing small nuclear reactors in their data centers because they are so power hungry. The other issue, which is we're going to see an awful lot of in the next 6 months, is the fake news and the fake media. We have elections going on in the United States. We have activity taking place, elections in France. We are going to see a whole range of fake news and fake information feeding onto the airwaves. And sport is no different here in terms of information that can be created with your favorite sporting personality and their brand and their ownership rights, that their image and their vocabulary and their how they sound can be hijacked and leveraged to promote products, when it is the AI that is generating that information. And we're going to have considerable challenges of legislating for some of the fake that traffic of information and where it resides and how it resides. Other components that we have to be really cognizant of is the accuracy of the models. So the best way to test and play and use these tools is to play with them, is to play with the video editing tools, play with the PowerPoint creation tools, play with the tools for creating text, creating TikToks, creating any other materials. Play with it and see what it looks like. But the accuracy of the models is always questionable. The quality of the product that you produce is very much dependent on the tools and the information that forms the basis of it. So there is an ethical consideration with the data being used and how it is used in terms of a societal impact, an ethnography impact, and how the tools are inclusive and has a positive effect right across society, not just within a small cohort. But I think that these models are going to have a considerable impact within how we leverage them and how we utilize them. But the companies that I spoke about that are leveraging AI, first day, those companies are hamstrung, for a sports terminology, with the quality of the data that they are using currently. That we have a lot of dirty data in sport in terms of the quality of the methodology to collect it. And it means that the outcomes and the tools we are purporting to be useful may not be as useful as when we put it under scientific rigor. So there are tools being utilized that are utilizing AI, but unfortunately, the evidence to support their efficacy is seriously questionable. So in terms of, I've only 30 minutes and I've tried to cram an awful lot into those 30 minutes. So in terms of for you as a consumer of sport, as a participant in sport, as somebody working in grassroots organizations, you are incredibly time poor, and AI can help increase your value in terms of how you engage with your audience, engage with your participants within your sporting organizations, by creating efficiencies, by creating automations, whether that be through a Copilot automations or a ChatGPT and a Zapier integration. It can create immersive experiences potentially, but it is one that can create value. If you choose not to take that pathway, it is important to be cognizant that your competitor probably is taking that pathway, because of just how it can be leveraged. The real challenge for me as somebody who uses the technology quite a lot is, if I have a problem, I like to have a human interface that I can help solve it. Because of the data that some of these models are built on, the human interface is incredibly valuable. And rather than taking people's jobs, I see that it's going to increase the job market considerably. That in no instance in human history do we see this loss of labor. We have seen, as society has grown, we have seen jobs that have been growing, that have come out of the woodwork in the last 10 years. Who would have ever thought that you could make a living from TikTok? But these tools can help individuals take ownership and create value, and sporting organizations are no different. So with with that in mind, there is a real importance of oversight of artificial intelligence, especially with the rights of the individual and the data requirements that sporting organizations have. The information that you have is very valuable, and the access to the population is extremely valuable, and it is taking precautions to protect that information and protect that data, that you don't just plug in a ChatGPT wraparound in terms of your interface with your community, because you don't know where that data is going to end up. And it's really important that you have an ownership of that data, and that you have appropriate data governance. And broadly, as a society, we have to have consider oversight on this, because there are really nefarious utilizations, but there are really positive utilizations of the technology also. So I went through at pace, and there's some areas that I went through too fast, and I apologize about that. But I would like to acknowledge the team here for inviting me to partake and inviting me to contribute. And I'm really delighted to be able to share my knowledge with you. And if you want to have a virtual coffee at any stage after this, and you want to talk more in detail about some areas, I'd be more than happy to, because it is through conversations and engagement and mutual learning that we will leverage this technology for its very best. And just want to say thank you to all, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm just going to stop sharing there.
Thanks so much, Kieran. That was unbelievable. I think everybody's literally, there's so many questions. Now, the chat has been busy.
Okay.
There's been some really kind of interesting comments. I think people are trying to digest an awful lot of it and giving each other hints and tips. I think we had one question there about, first of all, they loved your session, and they'd love to know your opinion on the intensive AI utilization on learning and the future of learning. So they'd like to just make your comments on that. Yeah.
Great question. There's a good friend of mine, Lynn Middleton. He's based over in the States, and he's using AI to he's using AI for the Ryder Cup when it comes to Limerick, to create the narrative around the activities that the greenkeeper is undertaking, that some of the hospitality environments are undertaking, the golfers, the coaches, and creating a record for history, so that it's not just about the that video that you take, or that picture that you take, that he's creating avatars that, for example, person that has spent a lot of money bringing the Ryder Cup to Limerick is a person called JP McManus. And none of us will live forever, but imagine the ability in 50 years' time to ask JP McManus's avatar the activities around that event. So you are no longer looking at events being once in time, where you have the infrastructure of the buildings that is created, but you have the infrastructure of the writings, the learnings, the activities, all that person's interviews feeding into an avatar. So you can ask that avatar a question around the thought process of bringing the Ryder Cup to Limerick and the impact that it had. And that's a very powerful tool, not just for as an individual tool for Limerick, but it's for the generations to query. So for example, Fiona, you have so many books read, so many books wrote, so many chapters on books, so many papers wrote. The ability to create an avatar based on that information, that you can query it for individual questions, that is the real power of where education is going, of how we leverage this technology to be virtual tutors or virtual assistants with technology. And me, for one, I want to be able to utilize the technology to do the marking, so I can have better conversations with my students, so that you can create better relationships and better experiences. But So for me, that's where education is going. How we utilize the technology to as virtual assistants, as virtual tutors, and no matter what your ability, whether you have really good biological skills, really good communication skills, we're not all equal, and we all learn differently. And having tools that can be leveraged to leverage based on you and your requirements, that individualization, I'm really looking forward to that.
That's a fantastic answer. Adrian has 2 questions for you, Kieran. Okay, they're in the chat as well, in case I misquote him. So he asked, for AI in sport performance, what are your thoughts on offsetting the bias in data, essentially averaging norms rather than individualizing programs? So that's the first question. We'll try that first, okay, for starters.
So I have huge issues with averaging norms, because in sport is about the X factors. It is about the variation from the norm. The norm is important, but it is the noise within the data where you actually get the story. So if I'm looking at if I'm looking at it from a talent ID perspective, the norms will give me my benchmark. What I'm looking for is, where can I find my next X factor individual? And it is the noise that gives me that. So, and it may not come true within some of our existing testing methodologies or tools. So whatever the tools we are using, it has to embrace from the width of that standard deviation, and it has to understand it. If we just focus on the average, then what we're going to do in terms of performance is create average. And high performance or performance is not about average. If you're average, you're going to finish halfway down the table, and ultimately that is not going to be successful. So whatever you're building, whatever you're doing, it has to take into account the X factor and the breadth and the width of that performance, which is really, really challenging, Adrian. For the second point, individualizing programs, the other component of that, there's so much innate differences between people for individualization, and I think it's it is the right way to go in terms of individualization, but it's very much dependent on the coach's voice, that it's a tool, and it's a tool in the toolbox, that the coach has a better understanding of the athlete than the AI ever will, because the AI will be riddled with bias, because it will only have the information that you provide it, whereas the coach will have a better understanding of some of the context around it. So the AI tool, it is just that. It's a tool, and it's part of the toolbox. Sorry, Adrian.
So just to argue that one a little bit, and apologies if we're going to go a little bit off on the tangent, but my concern is that AI is obviously a buzzword, it's cool, and I know I've actually been in this space for over 20 years. I am technical, right? So it's a loaded question anyway. But my concern is that the tools that are being offered around talent ID, around performance management, with the magic AI components, of course, marketing did their bit too. Coaches don't understand. People don't understand. No. You might understand, and I'd say probably you and I maybe show of hands, maybe see who else actually understands how this stuff works. And it's not about generating images, it's about how to process massive amounts of data. The coach who gets an AI-enabled tool is naturally going to be drawn into the bias that is built into the AI. And my question was to discuss the bias, because as these tools are becoming mass market, right? The examples you showed are popping up everywhere, and it's only a matter of time before this comes right into coaching, right? And obviously, the second part of my question, or second question, is very much about youth coaching, and we already see this. We've seen this over years, that the coaching approach for adults is being applied to youth, not necessarily to their best interests. So, my concern, and that's really where I was leading from, was just to hear your thoughts on those biases that are encoded into the AI. Who's going to challenge them? Who's going to validate them? And more importantly, how will the average coach and the average volunteer coach, not even a qualified coach, understand that what they're getting is actually no use to them, because they should be looking at the players, exactly what you just said a moment ago. The data is just data, but you make an informed decision. How's AI going to improve that?
I pull it back even one step. The digital and data literacy and of the coaches is, and this is right across society, the digital and data literacy and fluency is quite low, and their ability to engage with technology, if we look at it realistically on the ground, it is the coach that is on their own journey, utilizing their own tools, are the ones that that will engage most with this, but the vast majority won't, and they won't because it's not part of it.
Yeah, with one exception, and apologies for butting in, bad habit. You take Kitman Labs; they really have a great platform. Okay, but if that goes to an under-14s team, right, and we see that in a variety of sports, that the gizmos that give you accelerometer and GPS data are being used by youth in youth. So they're getting the platform, and Kitman are going down another route. So the distance from the AI getting to the uninformed coach is actually no longer so great. And at least previously, they had to look at a lot of information and try to draw their own conclusions. And now the AI is going to tell, no, this is what you need to do. And therein lies my problem.
Yeah, I don't disagree with, like, there's inherent biases within the systems, and they're tools that are being sold as that will solve all the problems. But good coaching is very much focused at a human level and working individually with people and working at a group level. The AI, I can't see how that is going to really take over from that. If you are as a coach are not owning your own pedagogical journey, and you're utilizing AI to be a crutch, or no matter what the technology, you won't last very long within coaching, and you'll get figured out quickly.
You won't last long in professional coaching, but in grassroots volunteer coaching, which is the wide end of the pyramid, it's exactly what we have. So anyway, I'll get off my happy horse.
No, fantastic conversation. It's really interesting, and your I suppose your reply there, Kieran, about digital well-being, digital fluency, all of that is well made, and there is a chasm between grassroots certainly and professional sports. Sinead, do you want to come in very quickly? You did, okay. And then Carol, I am conscious we wrap and we move to the next section. I do get it, but this is kind of lively, so we'll just continue. Yeah, go ahead, Sinead. Thanks, Adrian.
Kieran, that was super. Thank you so much. My nickname is the techie dinosaur. But I've recently discovered GPT, and I love it. And it's amazing how you can use it and weave it in to be a really nice stepping stone to build and be more creative upon. So my question to you really, if there's any fellow techie dinosaurs on the call here and they're AI hesitant, what would you recommend as a first step when they leave the call to go and play around with and to go check out?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would potentially start with your Chat GPT, your Copilot, or one of those tools, and just play. Just ask it a question. Just ask it to create a poem of a beautiful summer's day in UCC, and just see what it comes out with. And you start playing, and that's like what the interface for ChatGPTs allow us to do. It democratizes information to a degree, and what we're going to see with voice technology and with those interfaces, it's going to democratize how we do things, because like we no longer need, as I was showing with coding, we no longer need a deep array of coding skills to get started. And it's the same as writing a marketing plan for your local sports club. you can ask the chat GPT to say, please write a marketing plan. I want to reach X. I want to do it over this period. I want to use these tools. Put together 1,000, 2,000 words on how I would do it, and keep refining it. Keep asking it the questions. And I think it's a good place to start, because a lot of the tools have this text to query based approach, whether it's the creation of video or whether it's the creation of images. And that's a good place to start, that we can create this batch of resources for ourselves, whether we are creative, whether we are shy about something that we want to ask questions about. I mean, we may not want to ask it within a group environment. Let's ask it and see what it comes up with. So I'd start with those tools, but they can be widely. There is, I do believe there is a democratization taking place in this area. But going back to Adrian's point, there is a whole range of biases there. The models that they're based on are typically problematic, because the quality of the data we have within sport, they're problematic, and we have to be careful of our own data in terms of who the organizations we're sharing it with and what that information tells us. That's my view. If you're a 16, 17-year-old, you don't give a damn about your data, because you've grown up with just giving it away for nothing. And but it's I just think it's a really interesting space in terms of what's coming next. But if anybody wants to reach out and have a chat, have a coffee, and dig a bit deeper, because there's a number of rabbit holes we can get into, but they're really interesting. And it is through that conversation that we'll all learn in terms of this, because it's here to stay. And with the advent of the internet, with the advent of whatever else it is, the smartphones, we embrace it and we'll be better for it.
Yeah.
And it's a tool. And as long as we see it in those lines, I think we'll be okay.